You ready, my friend?
Yep.
Welcome to Whispers and Bricks. My name is Schonbrun. I'm your host. I have a very, very special guest today. He's a very dear friend of mine and a mentor of mine as well. His name, Benji Bruce. Benji started his first business as an illusionist slash mentalist. He started learning magic when he was 10 years old, and by the time he was 13, he was performing for tips in restaurants. Eventually, he worked his way into the corporate market where he would get hired by companies like Remax, Aflac, AAA, Best Buy, IBM, etc., as the keynote presenter and entertainer for their events. Ultimately, other entertainers and speakers began to ask Benji what his secret was for getting hired by all these companies. So Benji decided to build an online training company to teach others how to do what he does. In the beginning, Benji didn't take the online business seriously because it didn't really make much sense for him to put effort into selling an online program for $297 when he was getting up to 30 grand for appearing at events. Then it happened. Benji's first breakthrough with the personal brand was when he hit $93,000 in a single month. After that, Benji said, "To heck with performing. I'm doing this online stuff." And the rest, as they say, is history. Please help me welcome my friend and mentor, Benji Bruce.
Cool. Thanks for having me.
Wonderful, wonderful. Great having you, Benj. So first and foremost, I need to ask you a question.
Okay.
What is your obsession with purple? You always wear purple. What is that all about?
Well, it's just part of the brand, really, because it's like I chose it as my colors for the business. And then I was filming so many videos. I would always wear purple when I would film videos, but I was filming so many videos to where I was wearing purple like 5 days out of the week. And so I figured like, oh, let me just keep wearing purple. And it was that combined with, I used to perform an effect where you take a coin, you borrow a coin and it would bend. And then I would give the coin because it's their coin. And they would keep it for years. And I thought to myself, I'm like, what is it that I can get people to remember me by when I'm not there? So like the coin, they would remember me as like a mentalist. But I thought, well, with purple, people can remember me as well. When they just see it, just shopping, they just see purple. They're like, oh, Benji Bruce. So that's the other part in terms of the purple.
Wow. I got to tell you, I find it fascinating that you're doing magic gigs at the age of 13. Was your mom supportive of this?
Yeah, she was the one who actually got me the first restaurant gig because like we went out to a restaurant, it was called Red Hot and Blue. And it was this barbecue spot, freaking best barbecue spot ever. And so we went out there, it was in Colorado Springs. We were eating and then my mom was like, oh, why don't you think about like performing here? And so she asked the general manager to come over. I showed him a trick. He was like, okay, cool. And so that's how it started. So yeah, she's always been supportive of everything.
Wow. I have to tell you, my youngest, I have 5 children. My youngest is now 17. When he was about 10 years old, he took an interest in magic and he started to learn magic. And also at about the age of 13, he wasn't doing restaurants, but he was doing like bar mitzvahs. He was doing kids parties and he was really, really good, and then he started juggling. He learned how to juggle. He just actually, he just got the clubs now that he learned how to juggle. And I'm telling you, I've got basically 2 left hands when it comes to that kind of stuff. But it was really fascinating that, and it was funny because I had to drive him every time he had a gig. I had to drive him in order to get there.
Yeah.
But didn't last long. He still likes the magic stuff, but he doesn't really do it anymore. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right. So as you know, the name of this podcast is Whispers and Bricks. The whispers are those voices telling you what the right thing to do is, and it represents the good things in life. The bricks represent the bad things that we go through in life. Now, everybody goes through something. Nobody's got a straight ride. Okay. Everybody hits some bumps in the roads. Now, on the surface, you seem to have had a great life and a great career, but we all know that life is not a straight line. There are ups and downs, bumps in the road. I bet you it took you years to become an overnight success.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. That whole it takes 10 years to become an overnight success is pretty true.
Right. Now, what I'd like to know is, what my audience would like to know is, what were some of the struggles and or failures, actually, some of the bricks that you got hit with when you were starting out in your career and throughout your career?
Okay, well, so all right, so I'm going to tell you the biggest one, and then I'll tell you my thinking behind this whole thing. So the biggest one was when I was performing and I was doing all the restaurants and I was doing it full time. This was like after college and I'm still doing it full time and everything, just like I don't know, 5, 6 days out of the week. And then what happened is I wanted to perform corporate, but I just never made the leap. And what happened is all the restaurants just like let me go within like the same week. It was the weirdest thing ever. They all just let me go. They're like, oh, Benji, like, all right, it's going to be our last day where we can pay you. You can still come in just for tips if you want, but we can't pay you anymore. So like all of them let me go, like except one of them, the Antler Hilton in Colorado Springs. They're really cool. And so, and I was thinking like, oh man, that was like the scariest moment for me because I'm like, damn, do I got to get a job and all that. So that's kind of what happened. That was like the scariest moment, but that was also the moment that kind of fueled everything because I was pretty pissed off. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna show these MFers. And then boom, I just jumped into corporate. And so that was like one of the things that really did it. In terms of like the struggles and failures, it's not that I haven't had any. It's just that I've had so many that I don't think about it anymore. So it's like I've almost blanked them all out because they just don't matter to me anymore. So it doesn't matter how many times I mess up, fail, whatever. It's almost like a non-event to me at this point. Similar to if I were to ask you, well, what did you eat last month on last Wednesday at 2 p.m. or whatever? What would you eat? It's a non-event to you. It's not that it didn't happen. You just don't remember it. And that's what happens to me when it comes to just failing at stuff. It's like when I was doing the brand stuff, there's all kinds of things I was failing at, trying to create products nobody would buy, webinars nobody would buy, stuff like that. It's just one of those things where when things fail, they don't work out. I'm just like, okay, cool, on to the next thing. And that's literally what's happened to me. I just become numb over it. So I wish I could tell you more of the failures and everything. I just honestly don't remember them. Like, I kid you not, that's just how my brain works at this point.
No, that's great because again, everybody goes through ups and downs and everybody goes through these failures. And the whole point of this show is to try and teach people, how to get past that, how to get, what to do in those kinds of situations. And that's why I bring on people who've gone through situations and they always tell us, well, this is the way I handled it. I don't know what you do, but this is the way I handled it. So you're giving my audience some ideas and some confidence to say, hey, you know what? All right. So this happened. So let's move on. Just move on. Now, let me ask you this. Did you ever fall to a point like so low that, like you said to yourself, you know what, I quit, I'm out, I can't do this anymore, whatever it was, it's like you just hit rock bottom. Okay. And if that did happen to you, how did you deal with it? And how did you make that comeback?
No, but just because I really think my brain is it's very delusional in a sense, to where, like I said, when something happens, I can feel bad for a little bit. And then my head, my thoughts are like, Ben, like, get the up. Like, it's one of those where it's like, stop saying this stupid. And so it's like, I have my own motivational coach in my head, which is kind of weird. But yeah, in terms of the rock bottom and stuff, it's more of, yes, I'm like the opposite. I have so much self-esteem. It's insane. So it's like I said, if there's anything bad that happens, I'm kind of like my own motivational coach in my head. It's like, look, just, all right, let's on to the next one. And that's kind of what I do. So, yeah, I don't really know how to describe it other than that.
Wow. The fact that you're African-American and Jewish on top of that, did that like hinder you in any way, shape, or form? Was it a good thing for you? Was it a bad thing for you? Maybe it had no effect at all. I mean, I don't know.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it had an effect in terms of like racism, all that sort of stuff. Cause I mean, like, there's obviously little things that happen, but in terms of growing the business and all that, I don't really notice a difference in terms of being Black, Jewish, and all that. I didn't really notice a difference. It was just really in terms of what was going on in my head. Like, I got to make this thing happen. I got to figure this out type thing. I never thought in terms of the Black and Jewish type of stuff. I mean, obviously stuff has happened, but not to a point where it was business related or anything like that.
So basically it was no big deal. You didn't feel hindered by, I mean, we hear so often how they say, we have systemic racism and I don't know that if you've ever felt that or you believe that.
I mean, so I do believe, like, it's kind of like you're starting a race and you're starting it late. So like everyone else is starting, let's say you're running a marathon, everyone else starting on mile 10 and you're starting on just from zero. And so that is how it felt. But at the same time, it's one of those things that motivates you even more. So it's kind of like the reason why you hear so many rags to riches stories is because when you're broke, you know you need money. So all you can think about is I got to make money. And then all of a sudden, that's all you start to do. You're just like, all right, boom, boom, boom. But when you have money, you're comfortable and you don't think about it. So you just stay the same. So it's like someone who's starting from zero, they know, hey, I got to hurry up. Whereas a person who's starting at 10, the 10-mile marker, they're like, well, I can take my time. And then before they know it, this person who started from zero, they passed them because they just went with a sense of urgency. So if anything, it was like that, to where it's kind of like, well, because you're broke, I was like, all right, I got to make some money. So if anything, it was that, but it wasn't in terms of like some crazy racism stuff.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So it's kind of like, there are a lot of stories about Holocaust survivors who came out of the camps with literally the shirt on their back. And, you turn around and 20, 30 years later, and they're, highly successful people. And it was kind of like, I've spoken to, a number of Holocaust survivors, and it was something like, look, they took every chance in the world because they saw hell. They were at hell and back. All right. So they had nothing to lose. What is the worst thing that can happen was their thought. Right. So they took the plunge no matter what. They took the risks. All right. And many of them became very, very successful. And simply because, they had that mindset of, I got nothing to lose. All right. I can do this. All right.
Yeah, pretty much.
And that sounds like what you went through. Not the Holocaust part, thank God. But again,
my grandfather was in a concentration camp.
Really? Oh, that's right. You're Jewish. I keep forgetting.
Yeah, because my mom born and raised in Israel. So yeah, her dad was in the concentration camp.
Wow.
And then I'm not allowed to say too much about it, but yeah, basically he was in a concentration camp.
Yeah. Okay. Look, there aren't a whole lot of Jews who didn't have some connection to the Holocaust in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Yeah. So wow. So let me ask you this. Is there any other words of wisdom that you can share with my audience? Some advice, if people are going through stuff, because especially now with the pandemic has wreaked havoc on businesses all over the place. My speaking business basically shut down because of the pandemic. I'm starting to see it open up a little bit, so that's good. Besides the Zoom talks, but there's nothing like live, as you well know. So any advice you can give, how to get through this pandemic, how to deal with it, what should people do? How should they keep their spirits up?
So one of the things I've always liked doing was turning anger into ambition. So it's like when you get mad at something, in terms of whether you fell or something, whatever, but when you get mad, you use that as a reason to push even further and stronger and all that sort of stuff. It's like when all the restaurants let me go and I was like, motherfucker. And so I was pissed off. It was like, part of it was fear, but part of it was like, motherfucker. And so that's when I decided, like, all right, I'm just going to keep pushing. So the same thing with everything with the virus, all that sort of stuff, to where, let's say you lose your business and all that, you use that anger that you have inside of you, you turn it into the ambition aspect. So it's one of those types of things. So you don't just get angry just to get angry. It's more of like you're pissed off at something and you use it as a reason to like go further. So it's like how you hear stories of, let's say a guy breaks up with his girlfriend. He's like, oh, you're fat. And all of a sudden she's like, okay. And then boom, she just gets hella fit. She's like, see that motherfucker. And so like, she does it in terms of like, look at me now type of thing. And that honestly like has motivated me a lot. Like I remember when I was charging for gigs and I would charge, I would say like $1,000 and then they'd be like, oh no, it's too much and things like that. And then in the back of my head, I'm like, okay, motherfucker, I'm gonna get to a point where next time you ask me, I'm gonna say $10,000. Like, it's like, I'm gonna be able to do so many gigs where you won't be able to afford me anymore. And so it was that was honestly my mindset for a long time, to where, and I'd still do it now. Like, it's just one of those things where it's like even with like, let's say selling the programs, I think in the back of my head, I'm like, okay, these MFers who don't buy the program, like, just wait, I'm going to get it to a point where it's going to be so expensive, they won't be able to afford it. They're going to be begging me to charge them what I used to charge back in the day. And so it's that type of thing that I truly think actually like causes insane result.
Wow. Sounds good. Sounds really, really good. So now, if people want to get in touch with you, they want to learn more about your programs, what you have to sell, what would be the best way for them to do that? How should they get in touch with you? Email or website, or how would they do that?
I mean, you could go to speakinglifestyle.com, and then you'll find everything there in terms of programs, email, all sort of stuff. And then if you want to look up social media, just type in like Benji Bruce, and I'm sure stuff will pop up. Just look for the guy in purple.
All right, that's great. Benji, listen, thanks so much for sharing your story with my audience, giving the people the motivation and the inspiration they need to persevere in all the struggles in life. To you, good luck going forward. You've been listening to Whispers and Bricks, and I'm your host, Ari Schonbrun. Until next time, listen to the whispers. Never give up on your dreams. Bye for now.
Yep.
You are